Ricky Fiola was a very good witness in the Valley case today. Hi, Tony DeWitt here. I'm a Missouri appellate attorney, retired, and I bring you a fresh perspective on the law without offering any legal advice. So pull up a chair. This is what we're discussing today. When you put on a case, you'll always have more than one witness unless it's something minor. And the best thing to do is to sit down with all these witnesses and run them through their story, get the answers to their questions, and figure out who the best witnesses are for every part of the story that you need to tell. Now, I've already went on about how they're not exactly doing that, that everybody's telling the same story over and over again, and that's a little mind numbing. But if I were doing this case, which clearly I'm not, I would have put this witness on, Ricky Fiola, much more quickly than they did. And the reason I would have done that is because he is an exceptionally competent narrator of what happened. One thing that bothers me a great deal here is that the prosecution is putting on witnesses and they are leading them like a horse to the testimony that they want to get. The leading questions, I don't know how they're not drawing objections. Maybe the two of them just decided, maybe prosecution and defense decided, look, we're not going to worry about the form of the questions. But in addition to that, the prosecution isn't listening to the answers either. And I don't know whether that's because he worked with this witness earlier or he just doesn't care because other witnesses have covered the same thing. But in this first clip that I want to show you here, I want you to watch what happens when he asks a question and he doesn't listen to the answer. Now, it's not a major thing, but it can become a major thing because it leaves the record unclear.
I did not observe him do anything. I was just made aware of a PB blaster can that was thrown from the car that he had picked up and sprayed.
Now, that's the key testimony right there, that he was aware of a PB blaster can that one of his friends picked up and sprayed. But the problem with that is that the questions that follow seem to indicate that he saw the spraying, and of course, he didn't. He's already testified that he didn't see the spraying. So either the prosecutor is not listening to the questions or he's not fully understanding the answers, and either one is an indication of a need to follow up better on those questions.
And so, were you present when that PB blaster was sprayed?
I did not see it. I don't know if I was present. I don't remember seeing it.
And what is PB blaster? Do you know what it is?
Uh, I think it might be something close to like WD-40, just some type of spray, mechanical, something like that.
So, at some point in time, you became aware that someone was sprayed with the PB blaster or WD-40.
Yes.
Now, later, he goes on to testify that Lido, or this Rowell Valley, was sprayed with the PV blaster. And of course, that is an assault. It's an assault not necessarily with a deadly weapon, but PB blaster isn't good for you, and it's certainly not good if you inhale it. So I can see now where there is some element of perhaps self-defense, or at least it's raising its ugly head. But generally speaking, that doesn't come in the prosecution's case. So I'm not really sure why it's coming in the prosecution's case, but I imagine they will get to that in the cross-examination. But now, the key part of this, where he really shines as a witness, is him narrating what happens at the time of the fight and the stabbing. So it's not graphic, it's not particularly gory what he describes, but I want you to hear how clearly he remembers this. You can see him almost reliving the event as he goes through what happened on that night.
But there were probably a couple words that were exchanged from what I can remember. Yeah.
Was it argumentative?
Yes.
And can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you, just so we're clear, when you're coming down the driveway and you're sneaking past the Jeep in the blue truck, are you watching what's going on? Are you listening to what's going on?
So when I had probably been by the back door, driver's side back door of the truck, I had heard it get a little bit louder. And then as I was squeezing through, I wasn't necessarily looking. It was also, there were some people standing around, so I wasn't looking at what was going on. But what prompted me to move faster was I heard what had sounded like a punch hit someone's face, and I know what that sounds like. So, I instantly started to speed up and try to squeeze through that as quick as possible and get closer to what was going on.
And how do you know that you heard a punch? How do you know? How do you know it was a punch?
It sounded like somebody got cracked in the face. Like it was a hard punch. I had heard like a bunch of yelling and then a loud bang, and it wasn't like a car door bang or like a rock. I knew what it sounded like. At least to my knowledge, I thought it was a punch, and then from what I had seen after, it made sense.
So when you heard this punch happen, what, if anything, did you observe next?
So I instantly saw Tyler Rich and Da Silva wrestling. I guess that they were on the ground together. It looked like Da Silva was like on his knees, a little bit over Tyler Rich with like his shirt pulled up, but I know Tyler had some type of like grip on his like around his head or something. It looked, it was just really them two at that moment, but I had gotten closer to them with a couple other individuals, kind of just seeing what was going on. We weren't ready to break it up yet, but more so just observing. Like we knew Tyler could handle something on his own, so we were just not getting involved yet.
So when this was going on, were there flashlights on? Was there light out there?
Yes. So individuals were holding their flashlights. I know that there were some videos taken. I, at the time, was attempting to take a video close up. And then right when I had finished, or I can't remember if I took the video fully or what had happened, but it was on Snapchat. And the issue with Snapchat is when you take a video, it doesn't save unless you choose to save it. So I was taking a video, and I had actually approached back to right where I had entered that grass area. So in between the truck and the Jeep, I had walked back after I took the video to show Taylor Capella and Lily Lombardi. And then within seconds of me pulling my phone out to show them, or actually I had my phone in my hand. So within seconds of me showing them, I had heard, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife." Which prompted me to be like, holy crap, he does. And I put my phone in my pocket, and the video had to have deleted because when I pulled my phone out afterwards to actually look at my phone, because I was probably off it for an hour after it all happened, there was no video there. But in the moment, they had said, I had heard Charlie screaming, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife." So, I only had a second where I went to show them the video, and then I put my phone quickly in my pocket, turned back around, and kind of entered what was going on again.
So who's Lillian Lombardi?
At the time, she was like my ex-girlfriend, same grade as us, friends with Taylor Capella.
And just so we're clear, they were standing in this area here where there's like this cement.
Yeah, just about there, like on the Belgian blocks, or right in that area.
And why would you want to show Lillian Lombardi and Taylor Capella the potential video that you just took?
There was just like, I know they had, or at least Lily had like a previous interaction with Tyler. And at the time, I was still somewhat connected with her. So I, was like, look at this video of Tyler getting, in a fight. At least I was stupid. I was a kid, and, I probably shouldn't have done that. But that was my intention, was to just show her. But then, that's what it took my attention off of what was going on. For those seconds when I was turned away.
So you were unable to save the video that you took that night.
Correct.
And when you heard somebody yell, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife," you weren't watching the fight at that point?
No, so my back was turned. I was showing attempting to show the two girls the video, but it didn't even get within 5 seconds in when I heard Charlie yelling, "He's got a knife," and I had already seen the knife, and I was like, holy crap. I turned around and immediately rushed to the scene, which is when I saw the first person I laid my eyes on was Tommy Connery, who's on the ground, He was grabbing his leg, and he was in pain. I saw people kind of huddling around him, realizing like what had just happened in real time, because I don't think everyone actually knew what was going on instantly. But I had seen him, and there was blood. And then I quickly looked over to my right. I had saw Ryan Hines. Surrounded by Griffin and Tanner Chernowski. They were kind of lifting his shirt up, and I just vividly remember seeing Tommy on the ground, then turning my head, seeing Ryan Hines with his shirt being lifted up, and he said, "Fuck," and there was blood bubbling out of his wounds. And then I lifted my head back towards the road, where I saw Jimmy lift his shirt up, say, "I just got stabbed," collapsed to the ground, where me, Nikki DeJesus, Sal Perry rushed over to him immediately and tried to cater to him.
And when you got up to Jimmy, what did you observe about Jimmy?
He was just losing color in his skin. He was turning white, and Sal and I, tried our best to apply light pressure to his wound, stop it from bleeding. We made Nikki grab his hand and tell him to squeeze it as tight as he could. Sal and I were holding Jimmy's head up so that he could try to keep consciousness. We were trying to talk to him, and there was just chaos going on. People were screaming. But from my view, where I was holding Jimmy's wound and holding his head up, I could see Tommy behind me. I was kind of situated in a way where I could pay attention to Jimmy, but also try to talk to Tommy. He was also a great friend of mine. I didn't want him to start freaking out or anything, so I was trying to keep him calm as best as I could as well.
The thing I'm seeing from the testimony here is a young man who has been through a very traumatic experience. Seeing someone murdered right in front of you can be a pretty traumatic experience. I can recall the first time that I saw someone die in an emergency room, and it was traumatic for me, even though I was only peripherally involved. It is the kind of thing that happens. And like I say, it can be traumatic, it can be scary, but it can also burn certain images into your mind. And as he's narrating, if you look at his body language, you can pretty much tell he is just pulling this directly out of the memory. It's as fresh today as the day that it happened. And I think he considers himself lucky that he wasn't one of the people who got stabbed or slashed in this environment. I think he's probably very happy that he did that, but he certainly isn't happy that he basically provided first aid while one of his good friends passed away, essentially moments after he stopped taking care of him and turned him over to the EMT. This is the kind of thing that happens when you have violence break out like this. It's chaotic, and he clearly testified to a chaotic situation. And that's part of the theme of the prosecution, that it was chaotic, but it will also be part of the theme of the defense because they are going to argue self defense and that Raul Valley did not know what was coming his way and he felt like he had to defend himself and there were more of them than there was of him. You can see where this is probably going to wind up going. Um, at this point, I don't think the defense has made any tremendous inroads with its cross examination, although the cross examinations have been pretty well done, I thought. Certainly, they got some good points in the other day about a witness who changed his story effectively after he had testified. Sometimes the things that happen on YouTube are more than just the story of a trial. Sometimes they're an abject lesson for people who could really use a lesson in this area. I would hope that somebody will take some of the recounts of the events that happened on that night and share them with kids in the 17 to 19-year-old range. I would hope that somebody would take these videos, not necessarily mine, but certainly the videos from Court TV, and make somebody sit down and watch it and listen, and then sit down with them and say, how would you feel if your friend, James, that you've gone to school with for 10 years, last 10 years of your life, how would you feel if you had to stop his bleeding with your bare hands and you knew that there wasn't anything more you can do until the ambulance got there. How would you feel about that? Well, that's what happens when you go to parties where alcohol is going to be served and there are people who are spoiling for a fight. If you ever hear somebody spoiling for a fight, and I can't wait for those guys to come over here so we can kick their behinds, that's the time to get up and say, I'm sorry, I got to go. I've got early church tomorrow, or whatever it is. Make an excuse and get out of there because nothing good can come from being in a fight. The only fight you are guaranteed to win is the one you don't have. That's what I have for you today. I hope you found it helpful, interesting, or maybe both. If there's a subject you'd like me to discuss, please feel free to send me an email at the address above. If you like what we do, please feel free to subscribe and come on back to the beach tomorrow. I release videos every weekday, weather and work permitting. If you have the opportunity today, do a kindness for your fellow man. It makes the world a better place, one kind act at a time. And now, YouTube has some suggestions for other videos of mine that you might like.